Well, hey friends, welcome back to the cabin. And today I wanted to share with you a few tips on harvesting, processing, and preserving your elderberries. So let's get started. So I'm actually standing in my chicken coop, in my chicken pen, where the branches of my huge, beautiful elderberry bush actually have, some of them have grown into the chicken pen, which allowing your chickens to have access to some of your elderberries is a wonderful thing. But I just wanted to show you, the elderberry actually starts with these beautiful tiny white flowers here. Now I'm gonna pan up above my chicken coop, my chicken pen, and let's see if we can focus. There we go. Now you can see where it's grown over the pen as well. And look at the beautiful berries. They're gorgeous. They're healthy. They're fertilized from the chicken pen and the beautiful sunshine. And they're just as healthy as they can be. So we're fixing to harvest some of these. Now we're on the outside of the pen, and here's another cluster of beautiful elderflowers. Now these have other uses as well, but I'm not going to cover those in this video. But I did wanted to show you this cluster here, and you can see the varying degrees of maturity on the elderberries. And what I'm striving for is the dark, almost black berries that we see right here. I'm probably going to leave this cluster an extra day. Just to let some of those ripen up a little bit more. But you have to be careful, because if you go too long, then you end up losing berries to birds or just by them dropping off. And I don't mind sharing with the birds. This bush has been so prolific, I haven't even noticed. I have seen birds in and around it, haven't noticed enough loss to make any difference at all. And it's going to keep our bird population healthy. So let's find some really good ones, and we'll go ahead and harvest a few. So this is a nice little cluster right here. I'm going to show you that I'm going to reach behind it right here, and I'm going to cut right back here on the main stem, and that will give us this whole cluster right here. So let me find my scissors, and we'll go ahead and do that right about there, and it'll drop in the bowl below. Perfect. All right, let's get some more. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I actually harvest these berries off of these clusters. Now, I've been harvesting, like I said, for several weeks, so the clusters are getting a little more sparse, but the berries are still just full and plump and shiny and gorgeous, which is a sign of a very healthy plant. Now, a cluster of these berries is actually broken down into some subclusters, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on one subcluster at a time. Now you will see a lot of people, they will use a fork to actually pull the berries off of these clusters, but what I find is when I use a fork, I actually end up pulling a lot of the stems off with it, the little tiny stems. They're mildly poisonous, so we try to avoid those as best we can. And when they're fresh like this and ripe and full, what I do is I just simply pull them off, and they pull off very easy. Some of the ones that aren't quite as dark, you may have to tug on them a little bit harder. They're still perfectly fine to use. Now I would avoid, and you can see, of course, that one's not even near ripe, that one right there, but I would avoid that, and probably even the light maroon ones. I want to stay with as dark as possible. They're going to have the most concentration of the compounds that you're looking for. So you can see, I just do one cluster at a time, and I just pull them off. And yes, it's time consuming, but to me, it's relaxing. I can put on a movie, or I can put on my favorite YouTube channel and just watch videos, or watch a good old Western and just pull them off, and they pull off so easy. And this way, I know that I'm not crushing them. I'm not squeezing them. You see my hands, I'm not getting the juice on my hands. And when they're good and dark like this, they pull off so easy. So I'm going to get a few more of these, kind of get some more in my bowl, get some harvested, and I'll show you what we do next to go ahead and start processing these and being able to keep these for a later date. Well, we got us a nice sized bowl of our picked elderberries, and if you look in here, you can see there's just a few tiny stems, very few. Picking them by hand rather than using the fork, to me, is a much better way, because you don't get near the stems and you don't get near the crushed berries. So it's just a lot cleaner process. So our next step is I'm gonna take them over to the sink and give them a quick rinse to make sure that we get any little bugs off of there that might be. I haven't seen any, but we're just, for hygiene purposes, we're gonna give them a quick rinse. And then the next step after that is to go in the dehydrator. So I'm gonna take you along. So what I find works for me best is to go ahead and just do a few at a time in a fine sieve like this, because I can get a better rinse, and I'm not going to lose the berries through something like a colander unless it's one of those fine sieve type colanders. So what I'll do is I'll just rinse these good, give them a quick rinse, shake them around so I feel like I'm getting them rinsed a little bit better. Let them drain just a second. And see that, oh, that's a pretty good sized stem right there. So, and also when you do a little batch like this at a time, you'll be able to find some of those stems like that and go ahead and get them, doing this one-handed, get those picked out pretty good so every little bit helps. Okay, and then I'm gonna pour them over here on a paper towel lined tray just to soak up some more of the moisture. Put you over here so you can see that. Just a paper towel lined tray like that, and that's just helping to get some of the moisture off before we put them in the dehydrator. So I'm going to finish these up and then we're going to get these in the dehydrator and I'll bring you along for that. So I've got one of my dehydrator trays that has the mesh bottom in it, but the mesh is a little bit too, the openings are a little bit too big, and when the berries dehydrate, they can fall through. So you can tell I hang these on the line because that's why they're not shaped perfectly square. This is a flour sack towel that I cut and hemmed, and homemakers could solve the problems of the world with a flour sack towel, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently scoop up a little bit. We've been real gentle with our berries so far because we don't want them to be crushed. We want them to stay in whole form if possible. Okay, so I'm going to take me up a little bit more and I'm just going to spread them out. And they're still damp from the rinsing. That's not going to hurt a thing because the dehydrator is going to take care of all of that. So, and I'm just going to spread me out a layer on here. You can do this, it could be a pretty significant amount because they will dry just fine, because they're going to dry on a higher heat than say your delicate herbs or something. So I think around 130, 125, 130 degrees on a dehydrator setting, and they handle that real well. So, okay, so I think that's enough right there. We'll spread them out a little bit and get these put in the dehydrator. And when I get them all done, I'll bring out a tray and show you what they look like once they're finished. Now I have a tray of the dehydrated, and I'm going to show you what my next step is. Actually, so simple. This is so easy. I'm going to take, and I've got some berries in here. I've almost got a full quart here. So hopefully this right here should pretty much top it off. And I'm going to show you how I go ahead and finish them up to put them up for long-term storage. But first, I'm just going to kind of shake these down like that. And you can see there were a few stems. They kind of stuck to the cloth, which is a good thing. All right, let's see. Let's move this up where you can see it. I'm gonna move these down a little bit closer to the edge. Now this is just the way that I do it. I'm not gonna use a funnel this time. You can use a funnel, certainly like a cannon funnel or something, but I just scoop it up like this. Kind of shake them in there, and oh yes, that's going to fill that up perfectly. So now I'm going to show you how I seal my jars for long-term storage. to prepare your elderberries for long-term storage, I would definitely recommend vacuum sealing. Now I've got, this is a quart size wide mouth jar, and I've got a new disposable lid, but it's new. The gasket's in good shape. We're going to go ahead and put this on there. One note before, though, I did make sure that there was no particles on this rim before I did this. You don't want to use a wet rag to do that because we don't want moisture around our berries. So I just made sure that with my fingers that it was clean. You could certainly use a paper towel, a dry paper towel, or whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay, now this is a Food Saver jar sealer. It has a rubber gasket in here, and it's going to fit down all the way over even the threads. It's going to kind of rest on the neck of the jar, or the shoulders, excuse me, the shoulders of the jar. Now I'm going to use the accessory that's here on my Food Saver. We're going to pull this out, and I'm going to pull this little bottom piece off, and you see there's this little nipple attachment right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this firmly down into the top opening of this jar sealer. And on this particular model, what we're going to do is just hit accessory. And it stopped. Okay, so what we do, pull that out, and you will hear a little spit sound when you do that. Go ahead and put this back in here and store it away. Now we're going to pull this off, and you see that this lid is on here. Let me do it with this hand so you can see better. And it's completely sealed. And actually, if you look, you can see that there is an indentation here, much like when you can your canned foods, how it is pulled in right there. So that jar is sealed. The air has been pulled out, it's vacuum sealed, and it's ready for long-term storage. Well, oh my goodness, I'm so tickled to be able to put a video out again. It's been so long since I've done just like a tutorial type or sharing tips and tricks on things. I've missed y'all. I've missed the camaraderie and the fellowship with my subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, I invite you to become a part of this wonderful family. I have the best subscribers on YouTube. What we're missing you, so we want you to be sure and to join us. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. I enjoyed spending time with you and bringing you this video, but I do want to remind you of something. Don't ever forget that your Heavenly Father loves you. I will see you on the next video. God bless.